Oh shit. Here we go again.
I told you. I was like, we got to get going. It was like Kentucky came out and pissed down both legs, and it wasn't even. They were so ill prepared. It was like they didn't even know what to expect. They didn't know that Gulke was going to shoot 43s and hit 29 of them. They didn't know that they were going to play a matchup zone. It was like they played all year. They've played the same way. And it's like, how are we not prepared for this whenever we have two first round draft picks, projected first round draft picks? We've got 3 7-footers. We've got an All American. We've got McDonald's All Americans. It's just like, what the fuck is going on?
Lord have mercy, have we had some fun. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another episode of Real Conversations with Cozy and Murph. As you guys know, March Madness has been insane. It's been all kinds of madness on both of our ends. Me, live, new apartment. I'm a grown-up now. Get that one off the bat. The second one we need to get off the bat because we're jumping straight into the gun. We got so much to talk about. Is what everybody's really tuning into this episode to listen to. The reason everybody's going to be tuning in is to pick Cody's Murphy's brain and figure out where his headspace is because Kentucky, yet again, falls short. What's going on in UK?
Well, they announced that he's coming back next year. So let's get the elephant out of the room that was announced earlier today. Which in hindsight probably was the best decision for the program as a whole. I know I was pretty heated. A lot of people were very heated about, losing to Oakland, to a team that shouldn't even be in the same gym as us. If you just look at our roster on paper, we have 3 to 4 NBA players, and it's like that every year almost.
Every year.
But don't let me I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here, but it's just, it's so disappointing. We talked about it all year. All year, we had a dialogue about UK and the ups and the downs, and going into March, even after we had lost to A&M in the SEC tournament, I was still had, high hopes for March that we were going to at least be able to make it past the first round. And Thursday night rolls around, and we had a steady text thread going the entire, me and you and about 3 or 4 other people. I was texting like the entire game, and it was just one thing after another. And I told you, I was like, we got to get going. It was like Kentucky came out and pissed down both legs, and it wasn't even, they were so ill prepared. It was like they didn't even know what to expect. They didn't know that Gulke was going to shoot 43s and hit 29 of them. They didn't know that they were going to play a matchup zone. It was like they played all year. They've played the same way. And it's like, how are we not prepared for this whenever we have 2 first-round draft picks, projected first-round draft picks? We've got 3 7-footers. We've got an All-American. We've got McDonald's All-Americans. It's just like, what the fuck is going on? And the second half, you talked me into it. I took the second half spread like a dummy. It was like 9.5 second half spread, and I took it like a dummy, and it just proceeded to be the same, right? Basically, the same thing in the first half happened in the second half. There was no adjustments made by Kentucky. Jack Gulke just, by the way, shout out Jack Gulke, put his name out there on the map. And that's another thing that makes me sick is like we are a stepping stone for some of these guys, like Doug Eater for St. Peter's,
last year.
yeah, a couple years ago. And it's like we're just a stepping stone for these guys' career. These guys will live in immortality because of what they did in March to Kentucky. And it's just like, man, I know I sent you that video of that guy breaking the defensive film down for Kentucky. And it's like, we are messing up on literally middle school defensive principles. It's what I learned in middle school, 7th and 8th grade, is help defense, man to man help defense, just basic principles of it. And it's like we didn't make no adjustments. We were never prepared. The whole season, the defense was awful. Now we did have some stretches in every game where we did play okay defense, good enough to win defense. But it was never like, okay, finally Kentucky's defense is locked in. Our offense, we never really had to work on offense just because we had so much talent that we had 3 or 4 or 5 scorers on the floor at one time. But we end up losing to Oakland, and it is an absolute monumental disappointment of a season. Again, we wasted one of the best teams to be assembled in the last decade as far as talent goes. I mean, it's ridiculous. There's no other college coach that does less with more, with the most. And I will continue to drive that into everybody's skull until we make another run. And even then, it's going to be hard for me to give, so it's going to be hard for me to give in. But like I said, they decided to bring Cal back, which in hindsight is probably the best decision for us at the time, because really there's no other coaches that have the pedigree to come in and fill Calipari's shoes at the moment. So sure, let's run it back one more year, but in all honesty, and what I can't stand is whenever people are like, oh, you're just a fair weather fan. It's like, no, I'm a fucking diehard fan. I live and die with this shit. And that's why I'm so pissed. This is why I'm so pissed. And I say the things that I do is because I expect more. I expect more out of arguably the best college basketball program ever, Yeah. And it's just, I guess my expectations are too high, and sure, it could be worse, but that's not the standard at Kentucky. The standard at Kentucky is, and I've said it all year, it's Final Fours, it's conference titles, it's hanging banners. Every year that we don't hang a banner is a lost season, period.
Sad. It's sad. And then, my perspective of all this is, nothing changes. This is the same. I saw a film breakdown. It was like, this is the same style defense and offensive play style that Calipari was running when they won the national championship. But they won it on the back of Anthony Davis. And he's still stuck in that same frame. But the game it's like blown past him. Leaps and bounds. It's a brand new ball game. And I was telling you, these kids grow up playing AAU basketball. There's no defense. It's all offense. And they face a team that just wants it more. And they're like, what do we do? I mean, these guys aren't better than him.
Right. It's almost like Kentucky expected Oakland to just roll over and die. Yeah. Oh, we're Kentucky. We've got 3 or 4 NBA pros, easily. We've got the size, the talent. It's like, we've got the pedigree coach. We're just gonna roll it out here, and they're just gonna give up after we get a sizable lead. And it's like, the game doesn't work that way, especially in March. And Calipari should know that. Calipari should have his team ready. And sure, I mean, some of the players did choke. Reed Sheppard played one of the worst games I've seen him play all year, if not the worst game. But I'm not gonna blame a 19-year-old freshman that's never played a game in March Madness because he was nervous and tight before the game. I'm not going to, now when it comes, Reeves was the only one that seemed like he even wanted to play. Yeah. DJ Wagner has to be
been there before.
Right. But here's the thing. Wagner has to be better. Yeah. Edwards has to be better. I mean, and I hope these guys come back and are able to redeem themselves, but it's the same shit every year, every offseason with Kentucky. Oh, we've got all this talent coming in. We don't know who's going to come back. We don't know who's going to transfer. Yada yada yada. And it's just like, it's just same shit, different year, and I'm tired of it. And I'm just burnt out. And I hope they prove me wrong. Like I said, man, I hope they prove me wrong. I will always hope for the best for UK, but at a certain point, I got to start putting my mental health before college basketball. And any sports fan, any true sports fan knows where I'm coming from with this. It's like it should, as a rational human being, it shouldn't affect you the way it does. But for the last, like, I didn't even want to watch basketball. I told myself I'm not even going to watch the tournament after we lost, and it's just like eventually I came around. I was like, all right, I'll turn it on, because there was some good basketball being played, but it shouldn't affect me the way it does. It shouldn't affect us, whenever our team loses. But that is what makes being a fan such a great thing, is because when you win, you're on top of the world, and when you lose, it's the worst thing ever. So
Yeah.
So it's just so frustrating. We're going to run it back with Cal next year. He made a commitment to get back to work, and but here's the thing: is Cal has always known what to say. He's always said the right things.
Of course.
But we got to see results. I don't care if we win 25 games next year. If we don't make it to the elite again, like it was this year, if we don't make it to the Elite Eight at least next year, I don't know. I don't have anything else. I don't know what else to say. I've said everything I can say about the situation.
What I predict happening is this whole season, no matter how good Calipari is doing, unless it is damn near running the SEC, it'll be coaches. The good coaches will be trickling, opening up, kind of trying to find their way, like an avenue to UK, because they know if Cal doesn't win, and I don't even think it's Elite Eight, dude. I think you guys have to be Final Four, and if you lose the Final Four, it's got to be close, or he's gone. You know what I'm saying? I think they're giving it another year for a coach that they would like to open up. And I think with all the rumbling, more coaches will be like, I'm open to the idea of leaving if it is for the UK gig. This is because it would have been hellfire if they just let him go, and then you're doing a mad scramble and you're basically just taking
right.
You know what I'm saying? So
right.
I think they'll have the entire season, the entire off season. And if something does pop up before this next season, I could see it to where they ask Calipari to move into, some kind of special role and they bring in a new coach. But I think for now, you keep Calipari to keep, obviously, your oncoming recruits and such, like, from backing out.
Right,
so I think that's what they're doing.
And, we do have some good players coming in, but it's nothing like it's not like we're not used to having good talent every year. That's a given every year with Calipari and Kentucky. My concern is that how many 60-year-old men do you know that are open to change? Not very many. There's a lot of older people that are just stuck in their ways, and especially ones that have known success at the level that Calipari has known success. He's been at the top of the mountain. He's been there. He's done that. And so in his eyes, it just feels like, oh, I know best. I know what I'm doing. And everybody else, can just fall to the wayside and be a follower instead of, actually taking in people's good ideas. That's why it's so hard to be an assistant under Calipari. They try to, you can see it just in their faces. It's like, we don't know what to do because we try to tell him and he just doesn't fucking listen. And I could go on and on about Calipari, but it is what it is. We're bringing him back next year. And last thing I want to say is, like, it's so frustrating watching some of these other programs who have not even a fraction of the talent that we have and are just coached up and play so much better brand of basketball because the coaches actually care about coaching. They care about developing their players. They don't just want to send their players to the NBA or want to, be a pit stop on these guys' career. They want to develop a program, and you haven't had that vibe in Lexington for a long time. And I want to return to college basketball being the priority. And then if our guys go to the NBA and have good careers, then awesome. That's a bonus. But I want 3 and 4 year players back. That's what I want. Starting as a freshman, develop all the way through until he's a senior, and then it's like we actually know him. We've seen him grow up before our eyes. It's like we have a connection with him. He has a connection with this city and with this fan base. And I'm not saying that these other kids that have been through our program, I'm not saying that they took it for granted or anything, but it's like, we just got you for a season. We got you for 6-7 months out of the year, and then you're on to the NBA or whatever. And so it's just, I want the old school Kentucky model back. Win the SEC, go deep in March. Win in the regular season, win the SEC outright, win the tournament, the SEC tournament, and then make a deep run in March.
That's why I think UK, they have such big love for. I mean, think about like the Harrison twins. I mean, they weren't the greatest players in the world, but
they were there for 3 years.
3 years, they gave it to Shohei. Huge. I mean, he's not obviously not an NBA.
He was only there for 2 years, but I mean, it's still
like he to UK is one of the
two of the guys that really come to mind, especially because it was the most recent guys, is Dominique Hawkins and Derek Willis. I mean, those two guys, I loved watching them play. They might not have had the talent that Anthony Davis had or Karl Anthony Towns or Devin Booker, but they were the team. They were the heart and soul of the team. They were team guys. They did whatever was called on them. And that was the last time we made the Elite Eight. It was whenever they were seniors. The year that they were seniors, we had Malik Monk, Bam Adebayo, De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah.
I think Emmanuel Quickly was on that team, I think
so.
But I mean, it's just that was like what 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
2017, 2018. And it's just like, I want to get back to that feeling of, man, I watched these guys their whole career, their whole collegiate career, and they were team guys and they did what was asked of them. And these are my players. I don't just want to, I don't want to feel like I have to learn a new team every year. Like coming into this year, I didn't even know who we had on the team until halfway through, the first month of the season.
Yeah.
I didn't even learn these guys' names because it's just a revolving door at this point.
Yeah. I think with NIL money now, there's an opportunity for guys like, it's an opportunity for somebody like Reed Shepherd, who already has huge ties to UK, to like place himself firmly. I know he's likely a lottery pick. He probably is a lottery pick. But with the way the NIL money is and how short-lived the NBA careers are, it's like, dude, just stay, get you a statue, make a Elite Eight Final Four run, be UK legend, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean
that's something to build on.
His dad, is already a UK legend, so it's like, I really hope he does come back another year. I would understand either way, like if he decides to go or if he decides to come back, but I would really love to have him back for another year.
Yeah.
Just because not only do I love watching him play, but also I think he wants to redeem himself for that. I don't think he wants his last performance to be that he had against Oakland. Yeah.
I also think just watching the game, he was so tight because he was so scared to mess up that, because he cares about the UK tradition. So I think if he was one that like came back, I think it would open up a huge avenue for you.
I mean, he's going to make his money either way. It's not. Exactly. It shouldn't even be a question of money at this point, because he can make probably just as much money on NIL, as he could first round of the NBA.
Yeah. Do you want to redeem yourself and make a tournament run, or do you want to be a top 5 pick and go play for, I don't know, the Pistons or something? You know what I'm saying?
Something silly.
Win 7 games. It's like, come back, make a name, be the guy, be the savior for UK, make a Final Four run. You know what I'm saying? Win a national championship.
The sad thing is is he wasn't even a starter on this team.
Yeah.
Why? He's one of the best players in the nation, but yet he doesn't start on his own team.
Yeah.
That's the dumb shit that I'm talking about with Calipari. Like, that's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Rob Dillingham's not a starter, even though he's probably going to be a top 7 pick in the NBA.
That makes
come
no
the fuck
sense
on.
to me.
Because why? Because you know why?
Second half.
You know why? It's because he told DJ Wagner that if you come to Kentucky, you will be a starter. That's why. That's why he didn't. That's why those two never started. It was because he made a promise to DJ Wagner that, and I don't know this for a fact, but this is just my observation is that the reason why Wagner started so much is because Calipari told him you'll start. But yet 3 minutes into the game, he's yanking him out and putting Reed Sheppard in. And it's like, what the fuck, dude? You know?
Yeah. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. Calipari, man. I felt so bad for y'all just watching that game.
Oh, it was like
so infuriating.
It's like just watching. I don't want to get too morbid, but it's just like watching something happen and there's literally nothing you can do about it. And it's just tearing you apart limb by limb. And there's nothing you can do. It's so fucking disappointing, man.
It's like that scene from what's it called? Where he envisions the plane blowing up and he gets all of his friends off the plane, but he can't get everybody off. What's that movie? He has a dream. The plane blows up and then the plane flies away.
It's got Nicolas Cage in it.
I think so.
I think it's called Knowing, but I know what you're talking about. It's just
it's like, come on, Cal. You know what's gonna happen. We needed something more out of you, but oh god, UK. I don't think we should delve any deeper into this.
I don't want to harp on it too much, but it is a big deal for me because I am such a diehard UK fan. I've been a UK fan since I was 7-8 years old, and
don't call Murph a fair weather fan.
Yeah, fuck That's you if you think that.
Yeah,
fuck you.
If you think that, fuck you, Lord. But aside from UK, let's
there's plenty of other basketball.
Plenty of good basketball, and let me preface this by saying this because I am unbiased as it is with all of these teams. I have no real stake, but it was very beautiful for me to not watch any games at all season and then turn this on. And it was very refreshing for me to just have no real interest, but to watch these games, not going any side and just enjoying basketball. It was like I haven't stopped watching because I've just enjoyed what has been. You could really feel it. It's like it was such a pull because these kids obviously care. And like Goki, I know he beat UK, but for him,
gotta give it to him.
Think about being that guy and going your whole career as a senior. You get your moment against UK. Like you waited this long, you stuck it out, and you get this moment. And it happened for all kinds of guys. Like think about the Nebraska kid. What's his name?
I don't want to mess it up, but I know who you're talking about.
Butcher, but him still, like how emotional he was after the game.
I think it was Tominaga.
Tominaga, yeah. And him being after the game, emotional, saying he didn't care about anything. He's just sad that he doesn't get to be with his team anymore.
And it's
that really strikes a nerve.
It was like, man, I had no stake in Nebraska sports. I've never, paid attention, but just that moment, seeing him be so emotional, it really hits you in the feelings because you know what he's going through, and man, he gave it his all. He played his ass off, and they just came up short against Texas A&M. Yeah. And then the kid for Vermont, I think he tore his ACL late in the game, and they were going to lose anyway. It didn't matter. The game was already decided, but he went up for a layup, and his knee hyperextended, and you just see him, getting carried off, and it's like, damn, you hate for anybody's season to end that way, And so I totally agree. Like, I don't know half of these teams. I haven't watched. The only teams that I've really watched was Kentucky, North Carolina, Duke, Auburn, obviously the SEC teams. I saw them play, but
Yeah.
outside of that, I haven't seen Houston play all year. I haven't seen Marquette play. I haven't seen Iowa State play, and it's just like it is fun, and intriguing to have that fresh, impression, the fresh impression of a lot of these teams.
I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and there's been, like I said, there's a lot of moments that we can go through, but I think a lot of the highlights are the ones that people are kind of mostly interested. Obviously, one of them being, Purdue, Zach Edey finally breaking the seal, getting the job done. Got their Sweet 16. They've got a real tough opponent coming up with Gonzaga, and Gonzaga's looked really, really good. They've handled Kansas, handled McNeese State, which everybody had as the upset. But
they've been running through the first two rounds. They absolutely dominated, and the crazy thing is this makes 9 years in a row they've made the Sweet 16 or better, and it's like, damn, like that's crazy. That's the standard that I want at Kentucky. Like I don't care what
should be doing.
That's what I'm saying. I don't care what we do throughout the season. If we make the Sweet 16 9 years in a row, we have nothing to complain about. Absolutely nothing to complain about, because we're in position then to, Gonzaga is in position to make it to the Final Four, because all they got to do is win 2 more games, and then you win 2 more games, and then you're a national champion. So, Gonzaga, Purdue, that's what I love about this tournament this year, is that every single team, there's no real Cinderellas left. I guess you can consider NC State kind of a Cinderella-esque, but they're more, they've proven themselves. Yeah, they're not just but I feel like they're a solid team. Not that they got hot, but they're actually a talented, solid group of players.
Yeah,
and so. And a lot of times in tournaments, when you get a 13 seed, a 12 seed this far in the tournament, they just run out of gas, because it's hard to stay on the streak for that long. So, but every single other team that's left in it, I could definitely see making a run for the Final Four for sure.
Any of these teams could really make a run, and I'm just looking at it now. Like UConn, I think, is assuring at this point, but San Diego State has played, fairly well.
It's a rematch of last year's national championship.
That'll be a fun one to watch. Houston and Duke, I think, will be fantastic. I think Texas A&M kind of exposed Houston to a way to get at them. And Duke has looked really well.
That game, Houston Texas A&M game, was crazy. I stayed up late watching that. They were up. Houston was up 11 with like a minute 40 to go, and somehow Texas A&M found the way to turn the ball over, turn Houston over, and hit the shots. That last second shot they hit to send it to overtime, that was insane. I remember, because I had it up here on my TV, and I'm sitting here playing Madden, and all of a sudden I look up and he hits the shot, and I just jump out of him. I was like, "What?" I was like, "Overtime, let's go!" Because they were up so much, Houston was, with so little time. I kind of just stop paying attention. And then I just glance up and I'm like, oh, this is it right here. And dude hits the shot. And it's like, that's what March is about, baby.
Exactly. Yeah. That was one of them moments where you're just like, I'm glad that I had this thing turned on, because it was like, obviously all social media is going to be like, what? And Houston, I mean, they have rolled all season. They rolled Longwood too. So you're thinking, A&M was going to lay down. But the thing about A&M, they scored 98 and then 95, back to back.
Right. They're a tough team, man. They're a tough team. I would love to have Buzz Williams. And I don't mean to keep throwing it back to UK, but I would love to have Buzz Williams there. Buzz Williams is a great coach.
Buzz is a great coach.
I respect his game.
There was a lot of good games. JMU, congratulations. That's a big one. I think them getting a tournament win was huge for their program. It's kind of monumental for a team to get their first one.
They had a great year in football and basketball.
Yeah,
almost went undefeated in football, and then won 30+ games in basketball. I mean, that's huge.
It's kind of that's the stuff that turns your program all the way around. Shout out Yale too. Yale getting that win over Auburn.
Nobody saw that one coming.
I had Auburn as a sure end to the Sweet 16. You know what I'm saying? Wow.
That's why it's madness, baby. You never know.
Madness. And then I can't say it.
Duquesne.
Duquesne over BYU was a shocker to me. I think that bit BYU, them not wanting to play on Sunday, really bit them, so they pushed them up. And Duquesne coming off a conference tournament win kind of set them up. NC State, I think, is going to be another huge one, like we know. Obviously, they played, 7 games?
In 12 days or something like that.
12 days. And
yeah, that was a tough one against Oakland. I was over at my grandparents. Me and my granddad and my cousin watched that entire game, and it was a hell of a game, man. Oakland, shout out to Oakland, man. They're a tough squad. Came out of nowhere, caught Kentucky by surprise. Yeah. Almost, we're in position to beat NC State, who's probably the hottest team in the nation right now. Jack Golke, Trey Townsend.
Trey Townsend had a game, 30 points in the round of 32. That's huge,
I mean, bro. he was eating them up. He was eating NC State up. That coach, I can't remember the coach's name, but he's been there for like 40 years.
Yeah.
And finally, he gets him to the NCAA tournament. I mean, what a run for them. I mean, that's awesome. Yeah. As much as I would love to hate on Oakland for beating my team, like you got to give them props.
You got to take your hats off when you see some fighters, because those guys are no name nobodies until they have their moment. You know what I'm saying? Like I said earlier, you wait your entire career for this moment and to capitalize on it. And anybody can say, oh, they just made it to the round of 32, but they knocked off the guys that were getting recruited above them, are going to get drafted to the NBA. Like, they've got something to hang their hat on. So
absolutely,
I think he's going to end up on an NBA roster. I think so.
I think he'll at least be in the G League.
He'll get an invite to a roster.
He's going to be the guy that one of those. It's just like a 3-point specialist. Like, hey, we don't need you to do anything else. Yeah, we don't need you to do anything else. Just go out there and shoot a bunch of threes and hit a bunch of threes. That's all. That's all we need you to do.
JJ Redick with it. Hey, man, there's guys that make careers off that. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And especially the way the game has evolved in the NBA, there's a spot for that. And he would not have had a chance if it wasn't for that game against, this entire season leading up to beating UK. There just wouldn't have been a moment for him. I think another highlight, too, is Colorado. Colorado playing a playing game, beating Florida, and then running Marquette to the end. And Marquette was one of the teams that people were high on. I think Colorado, they're in position to change. I mean, they've got their football team headed in a better direction, and now they've got their basketball team. It's the same like we said earlier with the JMU and stuff. It's like these are things that turn schools around. Imagine how many students are going to come there because they get an opportunity or have a chance. I think that's a big one. Iowa State, they're making a run. Sweet 16 for them. They've got a tough matchup in Illinois, who's handled business.
That's going to be that's a pretty even matchup. I like that game.
I think all of these Sweet 16 games are very interesting. I think North Carolina, Alabama, even though Alabama looks shaky against Grand Canyon, they're going to run North Carolina.
Grand Canyon is a good squad too. They knocked off number 5 seed St. Mary's. Yep. I think everybody had St. Mary's pegged to at least make it to the second round.
Yep, I had St. Mary's make a run.
And then
having a Sweet 16.
And you got Clemson, Arizona, which nobody saw Clemson, even making it past New Mexico. I think we all took New Mexico as an upset, even though Clemson got the 6th seed, but we all thought New Mexico was the better team, even though they were an 11th seed. So
isn't New Mexico coached by Patino's son?
I think so. I'm not 100% sure, but I think you're right.
Richard Pitino. Is that his son's name? I think so, but Clemson was one of them teams that was pegged early on as a team that could fight for a national championship, and they kind of wavered throughout the season. So to see them kind of pulling it together at the end, because Clemson has had their woes with football, basketball, And this is kind of a shining moment for them because when's the last time you can remember where Clemson was in the tournament making a run, making noise? And I think it'd be like Ohio State for me. Like I can hang my hat on Ohio State football, but Ohio State basketball has been in despair since Aaron Kraft left.
Since
So I think
Greg Oden.
Hey.
Y'all won a
Maybe
national championship. With Evan Turner, Greg Oden.
Evan Turner. Man.
I'm pretty sure y'all won the national championship that year. I could be wrong.
I think I thought we got knocked out by you guys. I thought that was the year we got knocked out by you.
No,
guys.
I think that was Aaron Kraft.
That was when we had Solinger.
Yeah.
And what's his name?
Y'all had a squad, though.
Dude, Jared Solinger, Aaron Kraft. Aaron Kraft is the definition of what
It's a college point guard right there.
That is a college point guard, man.
All right.
Till the day that I die, I'll speak on that. All right, we're moving. We're moving on. Creighton, Tennessee, that'll be a good one. Creighton, if you guys didn't watch that game, Creighton, Oregon, 2 overtimes. Oregon was the better team all the way up until that second overtime, and they got one shot and pulled away. I really thought Creighton was going to get upset.
Yeah, I almost live bet that game, but I didn't.
Take Oregon?
No, I was going to take Creighton, but then I was like, oh, I'm glad I didn't take Creighton because it looked like in the first overtime they were going to get beat, and then they forced a second overtime, and they just pulled away the second overtime. So would have been a good bet, but I didn't pull that one.
Yeah, Tennessee in a Sweet 16. That's got to hurt too as a UK fan. Seeing Tennessee
Actually, I'm kind of rooting for Tennessee. I mean, I think they've never even made it to a Final Four before. And they finally as much as it sounds weird coming from a Kentucky fan, but it would be cool to see Tennessee make a Final Four. Just so like next year, whenever we beat them, we could be like, we beat a Final Four team from last year.
Yeah.
Dalton Connect is one of the best players in the country.
Yeah.
Like, period. Like, he's just. I think he'll have a pretty good NBA career. I think he's a pro player. Honestly.
Yeah, he's a good ball player. I think somebody was saying about how long his arms are. Helps him a whole lot. I didn't watch.
He can just shoot the lights out, bro. Like he can shoot it from anywhere.
Texas game. I don't know too much about Tennessee, but they've been one of the programs in the past 4 or 5 years that is really just
Rick Barnes. It was like the Rick Barnes Bowl because he coached at Texas for a long time, and then he moved on to Tennessee, and so it was kind of like revenge game for Rick Barnes, getting his old team back.
Yeah,
but that Tennessee Creighton game, it ought to be a good one.
They're all going to be good. I'm very excited to see what moves forward. How are you feeling? Who you think's got UConn, San Diego State?
I'm taking UConn just because I think they're going to win it all.
I got UConn as well. What do you got on Illinois, Iowa State?
That's a tough one.
That's tough. I'm gonna take. I think I'm gonna take. Iowa State's played good and Illinois played good. I'm gonna take Iowa State though. I think Illinois. Man, Illinois looks so good.
Yeah, but they played Morehead State and Duquesne.
Yeah. Washington State, South
Iowa State at least played, Washington State's a pretty decent team.
Respectable program.
I want to take Iowa State here.
Okay. North Carolina, Alabama.
Taking North Carolina.
Turnovers are going to hurt them.
They're too offensive heavy. They're like a weaker version of Kentucky. They don't play defense at all. They scored 109 points in the first round. They gave up 96. And then that Grand Canyon game, it was just like a hack fest. It was just like ball on the floor, foul, ball on the floor, foul, turnover, ball on the floor, foul, 3. It's just like what am I watching right now? They would look very sloppy. And North Carolina looked amazing against Michigan State, who is a very, respectable opponent. So I just think North Carolina is a better team overall.
Yeah, I think North Carolina too. What about Clemson, Arizona? Arizona's look really good. A lot of people are picking Arizona as their national champion.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot. I don't know, man. I feel like Clemson's had a tougher road.
Yeah,
I'm
New
almost
Mexico and
inclined
further.
to pick Clemson
That's
just
where I'm leaning.
because of the brand of basketball they play. They play very um, physical. I feel like very physical brand of defense.
Yeah,
They held New Mexico to 56, who's a very run and gun type team, and then Baylor they held them to 64, which they have some offensive firepower as
yeah,
well. So I'm inclined to take Clemson. That's what what my heart says, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Arizona take it just because
yeah,
I think they're the more talented team. But I think Clemson is a matchup nightmare for Arizona.
yeah, yeah. I think that'll be a really fun game to watch. Well, you got Creighton, Tennessee. Who are you pulling for here? I like both of these teams. I would
I
love
like
to
them
see
both of them
McDermott
too.
get his run.
Um,
I think I'm just gonna take Creighton because I want McDermott to win it.
I'm going to take Tennessee just because of what I said earlier. It'd be cool to see them make it far in the tournament.
I respect it.
SEC team. The SEC has struggled this year
Yeah,
in
they
the
have.
tournament. I mean, big time. So we need at least we need at
One of
least
them's got to get there.
Tennessee or Alabama to pull through this round. So
All
I'm
right, who
take
you got?
Tennessee.
Purdue, Gonzaga.
It
This is
really
a tough game. This is gonna be a fun one to watch.
it's going to be a war because nobody knows how to defend Zach Edey, and then none of the officials know how to officiate Zach Edey. So it really depends on. I hate to say it, but it kind of depends on how they call the game.
Call the game.
If they're going to allow Gonzaga to be physical with Zach Edey, or if he's going to get, because you have to get up in him. He's so big.
You
You have to push him away from the goal. If he gets anywhere within 10 feet of the goal, he's going to score. Or he's either going to score on the first shot, or he's going to put it up, get the rebound, and score. On the second shot. So
he's infuriating almost because like you look at him and you're like, especially over the past couple years, he has gotten jacked, bro. He's
for a big
now.
man. Yeah,
big man, bro. He's put on weight. He's huge.
But
I think he'll end up being a decent little NBA player.
I think if Gonzaga can run him, if they can get him in transition and kind of out of position, I think Gonzaga has the team to do that. Yep. I think they could pull it out. I'm giving the coaching advantage to Gonzaga. I think Mark Few is probably the better coach here. I'm going to take Gonzaga.
Yeah. I like Gonzaga here. I think Purdue's kind of made a statement. They haven't really faced any trouble yet. I think Gonzaga's going to give them a little run for their money. All right, how about NC State, Marquette, Team of Destiny versus Marquette, who's been.
I want to take NC State.
I want to. I just think Team of Destiny. You know what I'm saying? I believe in this shit.
Big sexy red DJ Burns. I love watching that man play. I love watching him play. I would love.
I mean, Zach Randolph.
Oh yeah, but he's like bigger than Zach Randolph. That's the crazy thing. He looks like a defensive tackle playing center. Like literally. I said we were at my grandparents watching the Oakland game, the NC State Oakland game, and I said, man, if he don't go anywhere in basketball, he could get a freaking NFL contract. Like somebody's going to give him a shot just because of his size, and he's athletic too.
He's good on his feet. Yeah, I was listening to them he was on a part of my take, and like he's a businessman. Dude plays like 4 instruments. I'm like, what the fuck?
He's like a Renaissance man.
Yeah,
like, you wouldn't think that just looking at him, but
it's crazy.
I don't really know anybody on the Marquette. I know Shaka Smart is their coach, but I don't really know. I don't really know their game. I'm not familiar with their game, so
they like to run too. But I think NC State's kind of figured out how they play, and they're playing it.
They're scrappy. They're scrappy.
Yeah, and they play good defense. And then I think one of probably the marquee matchup is Houston and Duke. Can Duke get back to the Elite Eight? And is Houston going to put it back together and just keep making a run?
I'm taking Houston here all day because I don't like Duke. Newsflash. I hate Duke, so.
Yeah, I don't like Duke. I wanted them to lose to JMU so bad. And they dog walked them.
Yeah. They've played Vermont and JMU, so. And after that absolute all-out war that Houston had with A&M, I don't think they're going to take anything for granted.
And they're about to come out.
They just got to get healthy. And I think
Yep.
coming out of this first weekend was huge for them because they have to get healthy and they have to stay out of foul trouble. That was a big thing in that Texas A&M games. They had like 8 dudes in foul trouble.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to take Houston.
That'll be fun. Of the teams left, you still got UConn winning it all.
They're just a juggernaut, man. I don't
They
see.
are, dude.
I just
They
don't.
play good
I
defense.
haven't watched a team yet that I've been confident in being like, that's a team that could beat UConn. Every time I've watched UConn, granted it was only 2 games, but every time I watch them, I'm like, nobody's going to touch this team. They just play. They play so well and they play so well with a lead. And usually that's not a good, you don't. That's kind of a negative thing to say about a team. But whenever you're always ahead, it doesn't matter. And it's like they never let their foot off the pedal. It's fucking balls to the wall until the final whistle, that's kind of a callback to their coach Hurley. He's that type of coach that drills it in. It doesn't matter if we're up 10 points or 20 points or 30 points. We're going to keep fucking playing the same way as we would in the first half, in the first 5 minutes. So
I like UConn to win it all too. They dominate all facets of the game. I'm very impressed by UConn. It seems like they're just out there doing a job.
Yeah, taking care of business, literally. Just taking care of business.
Let me touch on this before we make a switch up to talking about the new NFL rules. Cameron Bradley, first place right now in the Cozy and Murph Tournament Bracket Challenge with a total of 500 points. He is at 98.7% correct, or 98.7 percentile. I think that's how they register it, but he can have a max of 1740 points. Brady Smiley can also have the same amount of max. He is in third place. I don't know who ESPN 0599706759 is.
That's me. That's me, but that's my UK bracket. So I only have a max of 870 points. So there's no way I could win. There's no way I could win it with that bracket.
Yeah, I've got absolutely no chance right now.
Yeah, there's no way I could win it with that bracket. And then my other bracket, let's see, I've got UConn winning it, and I have a chance of 1,630 points. So
I'm trying to look at all of my. I want to look at all my brackets real quick before I move on. If you're hanging with us, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about these new NFL rules. I don't know. I took St. Mary's to win it in one of my brackets just because I think I took that one off the wall.
Damn it!
My best one is this Houston pick one, where I can get a max of 1550. That sucks.
Seth Robinson, he's in 4th place.
Yep.
Brady Smiley's in 6th place. Tara's and tied for 6th. Cozy 2, tied for 8th. ESPN fan 35307044406 in 8th place. So we're pretty bunched up. So everybody, if you just pay attention to the bracket, I don't know what we have in store for the winner, but we'll do something. We'll figure out something. We'll send you something, even if it's just a hug.
Lord. Well, let's switch it up here. We've talked a lot of basketball. I think that's what everybody's been focused on. But there has been other sports news going around, which is the NFL owners come together and approved a new kickoff rule, which is essentially just the XFL rule. And they also have banned the hip drop tackle. So, where would you like to start? Hip drop or kickoff?
We can go hip drop.
Let's start hip drop.
I don't understand. I don't know how they expect people to tackle in today's NFL anymore. I mean, you have 250, 60-pound fucking elite athletes going at sometimes 20 miles an hour, and you've got to try to figure out a way to tackle them without getting a penalty. And at this point, they've taken away, the horse collar tackle, which is, probably a good rule. But they've taken out that. Now they're taking out, you can't hit a defenseless receiver, which, that's probably a good rule. It's a, safety thing. But it's like now you're taking out hip drop, and that's one of the last things the defense had. So I think we were texting last night about it. I was like, if I'm a defensive guy, I'm not going to take a chance on getting a penalty, or B, putting myself in an awkward position and getting myself injured because I don't want to, because I'm only given such limited options on how I have to go about tackling somebody. So just let them score. Just let them score, and hopefully our offense can take care of business on their end, because, so I'm not going to be surprised to see, teams giving up 40 points. That's just going to be a regular thing. It's like,
that's going to be the new.
It's like you're completely handicapping one side of the ball.
I'm very conflicted, like, in this thought process. I see what the mindset was in eliminating hip drop. They were trying to avoid these guys tearing their ankles, knees, and all that as offensive players.
Oh yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree with that. I mean, but at the same time, it's a physical game. You're gonna get hurt. You're gonna get hurt. Period. You know that coming into the game. You're you're gonna get hurt.
Yeah, and this all started. I think the history on the hip drop was Pete Carroll when he had the Legion of Boom. He started teaching the point of attack and roll, especially if you're trailing a guy or coming to the side of a guy. And it's evolved to the point where now guys, anybody that's in pursuit is basically grabbing at hip and dropping their weight. I think if anything, the rule should have changed from, like, basically doing ejection or all of that. Is how about we do proper training on tackle? I think that's gotten away from the game, because nowadays guys don't even tackle anymore. It's like,
well, they're not incentivized to, like here's the thing. There's got to be some rule to counterbalance, everything that's gone against the defense, because in the last 10 years, what rule changes have they made against the offense, or that hurts the offense? Almost nothing, nothing that like even comes to mind, really. It's all been, how do we keep the defense from hurting the offense? And it's like, at a certain point, the defensive players are just just throw your hands up, and hopefully, like, maybe you get lucky and bring him down. The only thing I can think of is spot the ball on initial contact. So if the guy gets hit, and he drives forward 2 or 3 yards, no, spot the ball on where he gets first contacted. That's the only way you can counterbalance this, because the whole reason that they were doing the hip drop is to try to pull them down before they can drive their legs and get that extra yardage. And so I don't know how else you do it. Take the tush push away, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I get it. Offense sells tickets. It puts asses in seats. But what are they doing to the integrity of the game? The game that I grew up loving. It's like I'm still going to watch football no matter what. But it's just like I told you before we started recording, it's going to come to a point where it's almost unrecognizable, from when we grew up playing and watching.
I'm like in my brain trying to concoct a way that, it doesn't have to, but it's going to get to the point, like you're saying, where if you're in pursuit of a guy, it's either just run into them and hope that they fall down. And the way guys are built anymore, they're not going down on initial contact.
You're not going to bring down a fucking DK Metcalf like that. Like, it's not happening.
The only thing I can think of is like driving through them. It's so impossible anymore, because driving through somebody is like, and you have to keep your head up. Like,
you can't use the crown of your helmet. You can't have helmet to helmet contact. You can't have unnecessary contact above the head, the neck or shoulders or whatever. And it's just like, damn, at a certain point, if they get close enough to the end zone, Just olay
Run
the
'em
shit. Olay,
Yeah.
and then let your offense have the ball. Like, it doesn't serve you anymore to try to get stops. You know? But if you look at it, it's all. I mean, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It's hard for us to sit here and really, analyze what it's going to do to the game, but it just doesn't seem fair. And
Yeah.
if you notice all the commentary on between players, former players, coaches, all the defensive guys are all against this rule. All the offensive
Yeah.
guys are for this rule. So you can see how divisive it is.
Lord, the NFL changing so quickly and so rapidly right in front of our eyes. And I know the other rule that I mentioned, which I'm not completely against because I think the kickoff was in a dying state. And this may give it new life. The XFL rule, you kick it into the only person that can move is the kicker. So I see that the NFL is trying to avoid building up steam for contact. It is a physical sport, but this now incentivizes and gives reward to the return game. So if they kick it into the return zone, which is a 20-meter block or 20-yard block, and they catch the ball and they decide to fair catch it, then they're penalized. So they have to return it, which I think that will be good for the game because it was getting to the point where like kickers would just kick it out.
Kick it through the end zone, yeah.
Kick it out the end zone. Now kickers will be practicing putting it in that zone. And because if you do get a touchback, now they're spotted on the 30, 35.
Right.
Which is huge. 30. I mean, it used to be if a returner could get to y'all's 35, win every time.
Right, because it's just that much closer to field goal range. I think I think that's one of the more interesting rule changes we've had. I think teams are going to get creative with it, and it kind of breathe, like you said, the kickoff was kind of a dying breed anyway. I think it kind of breathes new life into the special teams. Like I said, I think teams will get creative with it and try to figure out new innovative ways to maybe line up or block certain ways. Also, I think this kind of makes the returner more of a prominent position now because you need somebody back there that's going to be able to break a tackle or two and possibly get you, to the 35, 40-yard line on a return instead of just watching it go over their head and going like that,
Basically just being out there to
catching it and kneeing it, in the end zone.
Yeah. I think it'll be very refreshing. I'm excited to see what that brings to the NFL this season. I'm hoping like the old school days when a kickoff was something that you got hyped for, especially the first kickoff of the game. It used to be used to be excited for kickoff, and anymore, especially the last couple of years, it's basically like, all right, so the game doesn't actually start till the offense takes the field because they just kicked it off and it went out.
It's like, I want to know the stat of, because, a lot of these sports books would have the first kickoff of the game to be returned or touchback. I want to know how profitable it would have been if you just took touchback every game. Because I'm pretty sure you would be up money if you just took every game to be start with a touchback.
Mercy. We've been putting in the wrong bets all year. I can't think of any other NFL news aside from those couple of things. I know that it's slow season. Jerry Jones still hasn't made a move. Last I seen, he was doing a coloring book this offseason.
Yeah, the picture of him with a notebook and it's just a bunch of scribbles. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Fans, there's your off-season update.
Did you see the breakdown of the amount of money spent in the offseason? And Dallas is like 11 million, and then like the next closest is like 30. So they spent the least amount of money in their cap with.
They have to be banking on the draft.
I mean, they got to go out and get a running back. They have to.
They didn't restructure Dak's deal, which I think is probably smart for them. I don't even like talking Cowboys, but if I was Jerry Jones, I would tell Dak, it's like, this year, make it or break it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
You either give me a run in the postseason or I
Or
don't
we'll
want to get
ship you
these
to
shot.
Vegas or something.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, that's what it's got to be. I wouldn't renew that boy's contract. I can't think of any other NFL news. We're prepping for the draft. Caleb Williams is out here in pink. He's a girly now. Which I think is also another thing. He's the first of this generation after us to kind of be the front runner, and that whole generation is just misunderstood. They're just different. They're not like me and you who are like, we're playing football because we just like being.
They're like, oh, my feelings. I need my
Exactly.
voice to be heard.
Yeah. So Caleb Williams is going to be, which you would think he'd be like the perfect guy for like Miami or something, you know what I'm saying? But to go to Chicago where it's like.
So it's hardcore. It's a hard-nosed, tough ass city.
These people are cold, bro. They hate you.
This isn't the West Coast. This is, the heart of the Midwest.
They hate you.
And it's like if you don't have success, you're going to be underneath the microscope in an instant, like that. I mean, just ask Justin Fields.
Heartbeat.
And that's the only thing I question with Caleb Williams. I don't question his talent on the field. I don't really question his character off the field because I don't know him. I haven't seen enough of him, press conference, this, that, and the other to really get a vibe on him. But I don't think that he has the mental toughness for the city of Chicago and the media there. It's just relentless. It's an everyday, he's going to have to delete social media. He's just going to have to stay insulated in the fucking building and just focus on getting better each week.
Yeah. It's the only thing that will be his saving grace. But draft approaching, we will definitely be diving more into all the prospects, especially these quarterbacks. It'll be something that we delve into. I think the last thing, because we are pushing past an hour now, the last thing that I wanted to touch on, because everybody in the world's talking about it, right? Everybody's talking about Shohei Ohtani and his interpreter and this whole investigation allegation. Supposedly, he said she sells seashells by the seashore. She shed. All right, sorry. I got ADHD or whatever the fuck it's called. But for those who have been looking into it, what we know about the Shohei Ohtani thing is, according to him and his agents, is that his interpreter had racked up a gambling debt, and Ohtani, the money came out of Ohtani's account to pay off his friend's debt, and then he's backtracked it. But there's so much. Here's what I read.
From what I understand, his interpreter was $4.5 million in debt, gambling debt, and he lied to Ohtani, and I guess he told him that it was for something else, and Ohtani gave him the money, and then it turns out that he spent it on his gambling debt instead of what I guess what he told Ohtani. All of this stinks to high heaven. I don't believe a word that comes out of Ohtani's mouth. One, because I can't understand it, and two, because it's very, very fishy.
Yeah,
I mean,
his whole thing.
I think Ohtani has and this is just my initial reaction. I think Ohtani has a gambling problem. His buddy took the fall and is gonna, get the backlash for him because he knows that, and the MLB knows that they need Ohtani. They stand to make so much more money with Ohtani being in the game than the moral obligation to investigate him and ban him from the league because he's growing the game in Japan. He is a global, international type athlete. Baseball needs him. They've seen such a reduction. They've seen such a reduction in popularity in the past decade that they need Ohtani as a star, as a name.
Yeah.
And so I feel like they're kind of in cahoots. Like, they're like, okay, well, we know it was really you gambling on all this shit, but why don't you just say it was your interpreter and have him take the fall, and we'll blame everything on him. He can be the scapegoat, and that way you can still play and we can still look like we're an upstanding organization because it wasn't Ohtani, it was his interpreter.
Yeah.
That's my initial gauge on it.
Yeah, it kind of it sets up a lot of question marks, but I think there's going to be a lot more details that come out, especially with John Boy Media, the people who
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So I mean he's John Boy's kind of doing a deep dive into this Ohtani stuff. And like when you play back to the reason John Boy blew up is because he took a deep dive into the Astros scandal and the buzzers and all that. So if the national media is able to, and especially guys that are huge baseball guys, if they can dive into this and bring it to light what actually happened, it will come out, and then that will make the MLB have to take either some sort of action. But if on both ends, if they are in cahoots, as you're saying, if they're in cahoots together and they've cleaned everything up and they can make it to where, all right, your interpreter takes the fall, which if he is taking the fall, I'm sure Ohtani and the MLB are going to take care of that guy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They're going to make sure he is set up well. He basically just retired. But if the media figures out a way to pull these things together, and if it comes back that Ohtani was, betting on games that he was playing in or anything of that sort, it could get real ugly for Rob Manfred. He will have to step down. New commissioner will have to come in, especially if it comes out that they're like in cahoots. So I'm kind of excited to see what happens. But side note, before we get out of here, I did think it was funny that Trevor Bauer tweeted LOL after all this stuff come out, because he just pitched against the Yankees the other day for a Mexican team, went 3 innings, struck out 3 guys, sitting 96, 98, still can't get a job.
That's sad.
Sad. He's an ace on any team right now, bro.
I wish the Mets would sign him like yesterday.
Dude, come on. I've taken back in Cincinnati, especially with we got guys going down left and right. But opening day is the 28th in Cincinnati, which is the real kickoff to the MLB season. Everybody knows baseball doesn't start until Cincinnati plays at home. Keep an eye out for baseball. It's starting up. Keep an eye out on the Ohtani news. If we miss anything, ladies and gentlemen, as always, let us know so we can talk about it, because we are just 2 guys and we don't have a media team. We have empty rooms and a lot of silence in our lives. So fill us in, educate us, love us, spread some news, spread some joy. Spread us to your friends and family and your grandmother, because we like grandmas. Gilfs all day, every day. You heard?
Speak for yourself on that one, brother.
All right, let's call it a wrap because my jaw hurts and we just talked for an hour and 6 minutes. Is there anything else that you want to touch on before we get out of here?
Not really, no. I think you covered it.
We love you guys, and I am not in danger. Peace.
Peace.